Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of my favorite audiobooks. But before we go ahead and get on into the list, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and sometimes throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box below for links to my social media, my Discord, and my Patreon. I just started listening to audiobooks probably less than 5 years ago because it's been since I've been living where I'm currently living. And I used to be like, I'm not going to listen to audiobooks. That sounds so boring, just listening to someone read a story. But I don't know what made me decide to do it, but I actually just grabbed an audiobook from the library one time and I was like, this isn't so bad. So I have been an audiobook listener ever since. I don't usually listen to just audiobooks because I find that I have trouble keeping attention, but I do like to, if I'm reading a book physically, see if the audio is available at my library, check it out. That way I can listen to it while I'm driving or cleaning or working out, and it just helps the book go a little bit faster. So very rarely will I just listen to an audiobook, but I'm going to be sharing with you guys some really good audiobooks / audiobook narrators that I have come across in a couple years of being a listener, and hopefully you can get some good recommendations. The first audiobook is the Darker Shade of Magic audiobook by V.E. Schwab, and this is actually the first audiobook that I ever listened to. And I'm not just saying that this is a good audiobook because it was the first book I ever listened to. I feel like it was a really bad experience and I wouldn't be recommending it. But this is narrated by Stephen Crossley, and I remember Stephen Crossley being just very good with differentiating the different characters. So we have our main character Kel's point of view, but then we also have Lila Bard, who is a female. And I just remember him being able to portray her and her voice extremely well and extremely in a very like feminine manner, and it was very believable. And just the humor in this book between the characters, I felt like it was just portrayed through his voice acting extremely well. So I remember really enjoying this and finding that he actually added a lot to the story and was able to embellish a lot in the story with his acting, and I thought it was really well done. So it was a really good first experience for a first audiobook listener. The next is the Themis Files by Sylvain Neuvel. This is an adult sci-fi trilogy and it includes Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, and Only Human. I'm pretty sure I listened to all of these partially on audiobook from my library, and oh man, so good. First off, if you haven't read this story before, it is actually told in interview format. And if you look in the book, there are actually like, it looks like a transcription of an interview. And there is some other types of media such as like journal entries and logs and things like that. But the majority of the book, I would say like 90% of this book is told in interview format. And the interviewer, the voice actor that did the interviewer was so good. Like this character is just, oh, he's so pretentious and unlikable. And he just has so much condensation in his voice when he's speaking to these other characters, and the voice actor portrayed that so well. And then we have our main character Vincent, who is French Canadian, and once again the voice actor was just spot on. And Vincent just had so much going on for him, like so much was at stakes, and just the emotion that the voice actor used was just so good. And then we had Kara, which is our spunky, determined, persistent, kind of a jerk female character, and the female voice actor for Kara just did an awesome job. And the reason that I like this book so much is that the interview back and forth dialogue between the characters sounded so natural, like it was a live thing that I was listening to on the radio, that it wasn't something that was rehearsed or that they were reading off of a script. It just sounded natural and real and believable, and I just gobbled it up. This series was so good, and I think that the audiobooks definitely contributed to my enjoyment of it. Next would be a couple of Star Wars books that I have read, and they all kind of have a similar theme with regards to why I like listening to them as an audiobook. And the first one is Leia, Princess of Alderon by Claudia Gray. And then we also have Master Apprentice by Claudia Gray and Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. And I think that the audio production of these books is very good because first off, they have the Star Wars theme music. So obviously whenever you hear that Star Wars theme music, you just know it's Star Wars and you get excited and you anticipate a Star Wars story and all of the characters and everything that goes along with it. So they have the music, and then they have a ton of sound effects in this series. You kind of have background noise that you are on a spaceship whenever there's something going on. So you have that. And then you also have just the noises of the machines and the androids and just all of that encompasses this futuristic Star Wars world. So I feel like these books, just the production value is so much higher than a regular audiobook because it is a Star Wars book, and that's the only 3 that I have listened to on audiobook, but I'm pretty sure if you are getting a Star Wars book that it will probably have a similar atmospheric ASMR experience to the 3 that I have read, but it was just a lot of fun having those little extras while listening to the story. The next is the Aurora cycle by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I've read the first 2 books, Aurora Rising and Aurora Burning. This is a YA sci-fi series and it is filled with humor. And the voice actors just do such an awesome job at taking on the role of these characters. So you have a captain who's kind of doesn't take things too seriously on the outside, but inside he takes everything seriously. And then you have a female character, Scarlet, who is kind of like the girly girl, but she's really hard as nails underneath, and she's always like, you know, trying to flirt with the guys. And then you have a couple of aliens, and just the way that they see the world is just not the way that everybody else sees it. So the voice actors really got into character for all of these different book characters and just fleshed them out and made them so believable. And there's also different sound effects in this series too. For example, throughout the series we have different interludes, kind of just little extras about things. And there is a specific voice actor that does the interludes, and the interludes are humorous and funny and really don't add anything to the story, but there are just cute little sound effects that go along with each interlude, and the voice actor does a really good job. So this series, not only is it fun to read, it's really fun to listen to. Another one of my favorite audiobooks is The Black Prism by Brent Weeks, and I think I listened to most of these partially on audio except the Burning White, and this is narrated by Simon Vance, who I've listened to all of these books which he narrated, and then I've listened to a middle grade book that he's narrated, and then I know that he also narrates part of Dune, and just based off of my experience with him in the Lightbringer series, I can definitely say he's one of my favorite audiobook narrators. He is so good. He takes on the voice of each character in such a distinct, unique way. For example, Kip is like a young teenage boy unsure of himself, and he gave him just such a cool character and cool voice. And then we have Gavin, who's like older and kind of suave, and then we had Andros, who is just a jerk and an older gentleman. And for each character, Simon Vance just really brought them to life, and it was so well done. I love his voice. I love the way that he uses it in audiobooks. I felt like every single one of these books was so well done, and I am so excited to listen to Dune because I know that he is a part of it. Next, we have the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. I just grabbed Rhythm of War because it was the closest one to me, but this is narrated by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, and I believe that they do all of the Stormlight Archives, and I like Michael Kramer just because his voice is so deep and so smooth. And then we have Kate. I think that she portrays emotion so well in her voice, especially with regards to Shallan, because there will be parts where Shallan is thinking internally, and then just Kate's voice just brings that alive. And then if there's dialogue between two characters, I just feel like she just adds so much to it. So definitely those two audiobook narrators bring a lot to the table and really bring the story to life, and definitely one of my favorite audiobook duos. And finally, we have the Gemma Doyle series by Libba Bray. This is narrated by Josephine Bailey. And the reason that I like these audiobooks so well is, number one, Libba Bray has a way of taking a time period and using correct verbiage for that time period in order to make her settings so immersive and so believable. This takes place in England in the late 1800s, and just her word choice was spot on. So kudos to Libba Bray. But then we have our audiobook narrator, who is a British audiobook narrator, and I just felt like the word choice and then the British audiobook narrator combined was like, I was in this time period. I was in this time in England, in this high society, or at this boarding school. It just brought so much context to the story. I loved it so much. So I thought that Josephine did a great job with this story and just portraying the scene and setting and time period that Libba Bray was trying to communicate to the reader. She just did such a good job of bringing that to life, and definitely one of my favorite YA series. And I don't know if I've read anything else with Josephine Bailey as a narrator, but really, really enjoyable to listen to. All right, you guys, so that is it for some of my favorite audiobooks. Let me know in the comments some of your favorite audiobooks or if you've read any of these books, and I will see y'all soon in another video. Goodbye.